Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
What's going on, guys? It's Filthy and I'm back with another video. Thanks for all the get well wishes on the Witch Doctor video, really did mean a lot to me, and yeah, I'm feeling better, so I thought today we'll have a look at the key farming build I'm using for my Barb in Season 20. Now, no surprise, it's a whirlwind build. We're going to be taking the full 6 pieces, so no crimson set. We're going to make use of the cube by putting 2 different belts in there. But before we jump in and take a look at everything in a bit of detail, I just want to welcome anyone who's new to the channel. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. As always, guys, a thumbs up is greatly appreciated. Now, Wrath of the Waste, 2-piece basically gives us rend damage, 4-piece gives us rend damage, and 6-piece gives us rend damage. Now, the reason rend is important is because of ambos. So this is a mighty weapon. Whenever we hit with whirlwind, we apply rend, and its dot damage is condensed down to 1 second. So rend hits really hard. Now, we also juice it up with lamentation, which is one of the belts we've got in the cube. Stacks it up to 2 times and gives us another multiplier. So like this, ambos and the 6-piece Wrath of the Waste mean that we do an awful lot of damage. We do take a legendary gem to give us a buff in damage as well, which is the Taeguk. So I go for this over the Bane of the Trapped because this will work against Juggernauts, whereas Trapped won't. So this at 10 stacks is giving me about 57% extra damage. It does drop off sometimes, but it's pretty easy to keep up, and if you get a good rift, it'll be up the whole way. So for me, it's better than Trapped, but you know, if you want to swap it, you can. Now the Echoing Fury, which is our other weapon, we're going to get a 75% attack speed boost from this once we've killed 5 enemies. So we get a stack every time we kill, and the stacks give us 15% attack speed. Also gives us some move speed, and we'll talk about that in a little bit because that's pretty much going to be the main focus of this build, gearing up as much move speed as we can. Now, to handle the toughness, we're going to take a Boon of the Hoarder gem, so that when we kill enemies they drop gold. We pick it up with our Avarice Band, which increases our pickup radius, and then the gold wrap will basically make us immortal. Now, you're going to want to wear the gold wrap because on its secondary it has extra gold, and that's obviously handy for a key farming build because you want as much gold to empower your rifts. And also, you don't need to worry about any of the stats on it other than your main stats. You want to reroll that up to as close to 650 as you can if you've got an ancient one. Now, damaging wise, we're also going to take damaging gems in the chest and pants, so that's going to give us a bit more damage as well. You're looking to get rend damage on your chest, preferably on your shoulders, but I've taken cooldown, either of those is fine. And other than that, you're looking for double crits and just buffing up the damage as much as you can. Now, Wrath of the Berserker also gives us 50% increased damage when this is up, as well as extra crit chance, attack speed, and a bit of move speed, so you want to keep that up 100% of the time if you can. So sheet cooldown is about 50%, so that's cooldown on gloves, shoulders, both weapons, and also a diamond in the helm, and the Flavour of Time also will roll with cooldown as well. So this also gives us a doubling of pylon effect, so really nice for farming keys. If you get any kind of shrine, it's going to last twice as long. So obviously you can pick up the little small shrines as well, it does help out for that, so it is pretty handy. Now, I've got mine juiced up a little bit, so she damaged about 1.5 million, but after we've looked at the skills and the move speed, we'll talk about how to beef up the damage just in case you need it, but hopefully speaking you won't do. Now, in addition to the 50% sheet CDR, we're also going to take the Messerschmitt's Reaver in the cube, again to help out the cooldown. Now, I've tested this and the Zodiac Ring, they both do similar things. I couldn't really notice much of a difference. The way the Reaver works is when you kill, it basically takes 1 second off your skill cooldown, just picks one at random and it will go on to that. The Zodiac works in a very similar way, you just have to hit with a spender. So the idea is, are you going to make more kills or are you going to get more hits? If you're just doing more hitting, you'll go for Zodiac, which is why that's used in the push build. But for a speed build like this, the Reaver generally works out a little better because on the bar we take Rend with the Bloodbath rune. This gives an area of effect, so 10-yard radius for spreading out more Rends, so you can actually hit once and kill a whole bunch of enemies with the Reaver. That gives you a lot more cooldown than the Zodiac, which would only count as 1 activation. Obviously the downside of the Reaver is if you get an enemy with shielding, or maybe the Rift Guardian as an example, you're going to hit them multiple times before you kill them, and in that circumstance the Zodiac would be better. Now obviously for this season you could work both of them in, you could lose one of these belts and put the Zodiac in, I found like this, I've got enough cooldown. Wrath of the Berserker, you don't need 100% uptime all the way, and it is up quite a lot of the time, so you know, it's one of those to juggle it around. I like playing it like this, and that's kind of why I've gone for it. So that's damage covered, that's toughness covered, so the main selling point of this build is really going to be move speed. Now our Paragon's going to give us 25%, Wrath of the Berserker is going to give us another 20, so that's nice. We're going to take Chilanix Chain in the cube, so when we use Warcry we get 40% for 10 seconds, so we're going to have that on the bar. We're also going to take the Larceny Ring, so this will give us up to 60% for 4 seconds after fearing an enemy. Now we've got Fear on hit on this ring, it can roll up to 5%, and we've also got Fear on hit on the Echoing Fury, which can roll up to 20. Now I personally think that this is a little bit RNG wise, a little bit tough, particularly for me because I've got low rolls on both. So I've found that it's a lot smoother to actually put Threatening Shout Demoralise on the bar. So this will fear enemies for us, and it means that this will go off quite a lot because our cooldown's so high, because we've got the Reaver. This is going off a lot like crazy, so I will numlock this. I will also numlock Warcry. But the idea is that whenever we stop whirlwinding or whenever we press the button, it will give us a huge move speed buff because of the Larceny Ring, so that's pretty nice. Boon of the Hoarder, which we've got socketed in this ring, also gives us 30% when we pick up gold, so that's pretty handy. And then we also have the Wreath of Lightning. This goes off loads, so again another 25% move speed, which is pretty nice. And then Echoing Fury also gives us 25% move speed once we get up to 5 stacks with our kills. Not quite done with move speed, we're still going to have Sprint Marathon, so this will give us 40% for 4 seconds whenever we press it. We're going to have tons of fury, so we can use this whenever we want, so you're going to pretty much try and keep this uptime the whole way. And then in the passives, we're also going to take Pound of Flesh. This is going to give us a stacking move speed effect when we pick up health globes. Now, I haven't tested, but in theory, Threatening Shout, you could maybe pick Grim Harvest. That would give you more health globes from enemies. Personally, I like the guaranteed fear, so you know, you certainly can do it that way. Now, this is by no means the only way to run one of these barbs. There's loads of different other mobility skills. Battle Rage with Ferocity is one you can take. You could also take Ignore Pain Bravado. So there are different ways. The arm guards, again, I've tried to work them in by keeping these 2 belts, but I just find that I end up dying quite a lot of the time, because even if you jack your toughness up a little bit, you can't like whirlwind through lots of elemental stuff. So I just find overall balance of damage, balance of speed, this is kind of what I've settled on, and this is kind of what I like. Now in terms of gems, we've got the cooldown gem in the helm, damaging gems as we said in the main gear, and then looking at the skills in detail, Whirlwind Hurricane, we're going to pull enemies towards us. Obviously this is kind of counteracting the fear a little bit because we do have such a high fear chance, but with the fearing skill going off, so this sucks enemies in, really handy. Bloodbath, Rune on Rend, we've talked about. This just gives us an awful lot of damage, allows us to get more benefit out of the Reaver, which is nice. Threatening Shout Demoralise, this goes on numlock. Now interestingly, when you hold down Whirlwind, whilst you've got things numlocked, they don't go off, so you have to either release Whirlwind or you have to press the button. So I quite like just holding down Whirlwind, letting it off for a brief second, and these 2 will go off, and then you hold down Whirlwind again and off you go. But yeah, the fear is pretty nice, gives us the move speed. We also get 20% damage reduction, not really useful because we're immortal. Again, as I say, I did try playing around with arm guards, but it just wasn't consistent enough to keep us alive. Warcry Charge, this will generate 50 fury, as well as giving us the move speed buff off the Chilanix Chain. This also gives us fury as well, so there's 2 kind of fury mechanics, which is really handy because Whirlwind does spend quite a bit. So those 2 things are pretty nice. Wrath of the Berserker Insanity, you pretty much always take this as a barb. As we say, some nice effects there, damage, move speed, that kind of stuff. And then Sprint Marathon. The 20 Fury, we get quite a lot back with these 2, so Sprint Marathon, as I say, is available 100% of the time, so pretty nice. And then passives wise, Nerves of Steel, I always leave this on because 1, I find dying frustrating, and 2, you might not always have access to gold. You might get really bad RNG, one of those crappy maps where you're going quite a way in between enemies, so to be able to have a cheat death is quite handy, but you certainly could take it off. Weapons Master is another mechanism for getting Fury back. Provided we hit with a mighty weapon in our main hand, we get 2 Fury per hit. So if we look at the character, you have to have the Ambos in this hand. It's no good if you put it over here. So provided you get that right, you're going to get some Fury, Pound of Flesh recovered, and then Boonable Kathos, as I said earlier, 30 seconds off Wrath of the Berserker. Just eases the pressure off the Reaver and allows us to get other skills back just that little bit quicker. Now, if you were to dump Nerves of Steel, I would suggest probably Rampage for this stacking strength effect. That would be pretty nice, extra 25% damage. Berserker Rage could be good, 25% damage near max Fury, or Brawler, 3 enemies within 12 yards for an extra 20%. I do find that I hit plenty hard without it, but by all means, if you want to, you can. Now, if let's say you're struggling, because I've got mine juiced up to about 14k main stat, which, you know, might be towards the edge of casual play for a season. I don't know, it depends on your definition of casual. But if you are struggling for damage, then you can take out, say, the Wreath of Lightning and go for Bane of the Trapped. That would give you about another 40-45%, again depending on the level of your gem. That would be a pretty big damage increase. And then the other swap I would consider is probably taking off Sprint Marathon, and I would swap it to, where is it? I would swap it to Battle Rage, and I'd put Ferocity on. So you'd lose 25% move speed, but you would gain an extra 10% damage and 3% crit chance. But that's pretty much the build. Now, as I say, there are different ways to run this. You can move a lot of this stuff around. This is just kind of, I've just done lots of key farming, and I just find this is my favourite. So by all means, you know, muck about with it as you want. Now, in terms of Paragon, move speed up to 25%. You shouldn't need any max Fury. You can put some if you want to try and ease your Fury burden. You'll hopefully see from the rift that we're going to do that we don't need it. You don't need anything in Vitality, so everything is in Strength. For offense, you probably want cooldown first, and then obviously fill out the rest. Doesn't really much matter which way round you do it. Defense, none of these matter at all because we're immortal, so not particularly bothered. Again, none of these really matter. I'd go for gold for just this build. I'd go gold find obviously first, but we don't get any area damage benefit because we're not actually manually going to click rend. I mean, occasionally I've got it on left clicks. Occasionally it'll go off if I miss a pylon, but in general we're not going to use it too much. So as you can see, I've numlocked both of these two skills now, and with the level of cooldown we're now at full Fury. And obviously if I do hold down Whirlwind, the Fury will start going down. And as you can see, that Threatening Shout now is off cooldown, as is Warcry. They're not casting, but if I let go for a split second, they both go off. Obviously the other option is just to activate them whilst you're playing, so you know that's another route you can go down. But let's jump in, let's have a look at a map, and hopefully it's not a crap one. You never know, nice primal would be good as well. Right, so I can't stand that tile set, so let's do that again. Right, here, not the best, but we'll take it. So you want to get Wrath of the Berserker up, and now that we've killed something, we're immortal. So you just have to pick the stuff up, and then off you go, and just make sure that you're letting go of Whirlwind every so often to activate your move speed bonuses, and try and keep up your marathon. So that's the only thing you got to keep an eye on. So if you feel like you're a little bit slow, maybe it is that you haven't activated marathon. I mean, obviously you've got to stop to pick stuff up, so you're not always going to get the benefit of all your move speed abilities. One of the things you've got to sometimes worry about is, you know, am I making a barb actually too fast? Because you can, you know, if you end up where you're not actually able to pick stuff up, then you're probably defeating the purpose. But as I say, this is fun, it's fast, it's really easy. You know, obviously getting a conduit pylon's nice and helpful. And I did find when I did have the arm guards in, it was it was a lot of fun because it was so fast. It was almost like hard to control. But yeah, it was just, I couldn't quite iron out not dying to elemental stuff. I couldn't really be bothered putting an esoteric in the build or anything like that. So it is possible, I suppose, to dump the gold wrap, but the extra gold find's kind of handy because I don't know about you guys, but I'm finding that really gold is something that I need to make sure that I'm getting every single rift, just to make sure that I've got enough to empower. So as you can see, the Fury goes up and down. It's you know, it's near max a lot of the time, but we've got this two 2 shouts doing the fury generation, which is pretty good. You know, and the average band obviously is fundamental for this build, because you're moving so quickly that you want to make sure that you're picking the gold up. You obviously can't rely on just your pet to do it, but yeah, pretty good way to farm keys for the Barb. I think I've said in the past it would have been nice if Whirlwind hadn't been the top push build, but you know, we could have had this for speeds and something else to push with, but you know, never mind. But as you can see, pretty quick, fairly okay-ish map. Not the greatest, not the worst. And then now you sometimes do have a bit of a problem with the Rift Guardian if, let's say, you don't have any gold. So you know, that's where the cheat death does come in handy. Obviously, if you'd got him over here and there'd been like some more enemies over here, then you know, we would have been immortal from any gold that we pick up. But you know, being down there does kind of show the cheat death does come in handy, because otherwise you've got to die and respawn. But we'll pick up this stuff and then talk a little bit about stat priorities, I guess. But yeah, if you're num-locking, you just need to press tab, and that way you can teleport back to town. But yeah, we'll turn those off, because said Barbarian will be shouting at us the whole way otherwise. So stat priorities are pretty much going to be cooldown. You're going to want cooldown on your gloves. You're going to want cooldown on your shoulders, really. You can get rend damage here, so I suppose in theory for a key farming build, if you can find a pair with cooldown and rend damage, you just want to keep them. You don't need any toughness stats for key farming. Rend damage again on your chest piece, and then cooldown I've got on both weapons, so I think I've got just under 50. So 48, yep. Cooldown on your rings would be helpful, but other than that, double crit, no area damage, you don't need it. You also don't need any attack speed, because that is covered by your Echoing Fury, and then 20% physical on Bracer. Amulet, don't sweat it, it's an absolute pain in the arse to get a flavour of time that is well rolled. This is probably one of the best ones I've ever found, and it's still not particularly great, but you know, it is what it is. And yeah, I should have said when we were doing the gems, you only need your Ether Lightning up to 25. Don't take it past that, it's a complete waste of time. It's not actually doing any damage for us. Now in terms of bounties, if you wanted to do bounties with this, I don't like relying on gold wrap for toughness in bounties, so you probably could take the Lamentation out, put it on the character and put Band of Might in, and then just swap out Sprint for, say, Furious Charge, Merciless Assault, and that would do you absolutely fine. You'd still have your pickup radius from the average band, you'd still get your gold from the Boon of the Hoarder, but other than that, guys, you know, bounty build for the Barb again, it's pretty easy to work out. But as I say, this is a really good key farm build, really been enjoying it, been playing it quite a lot, and I've probably got a ridiculous amount of keys, way more than I should. Yeah, over 100, I really need to go spend them. That's it, guys. I hope you're enjoying season 20. I'll be back with some more stuff just as soon as I can. Hope you're keeping well. Take it easy. Peace.